chapter 4, verse 1 and 2, saying that finances represent forgiveness. Hey there, welcome to the Radical Godly Stewardship Podcast. This is episode number 63. I'll tell you about it in just a moment. But I just want to welcome you to this podcast. This is where heaven's economy collides with earth's assignments. I am your host, Dr. Lexi Johnson, financial rebel, kingdom disruptor, and your accountability coach into obedience. Because around here, we don't beg God for money. We don't. We align, we obey, we dominate. And if you're ready to steward well, think boldly, and build kingdom wealth, then let's dive in. Yes, as you all are coming in the room, let me know who you are, where you are watching from. I am super grateful that you are here this Thursday. We are late. We are like about 45 minutes late, right? But it's just been that kind of week. It has been that kind of week. I hope that you all have had an amazing week. And so we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it. Um, while culture wars dominate the headlines, while race wars, gender wars, political outrage, and all these things are dominating the headlines, there's something else that is happening quietly. There's something else that's happening quietly. Governments are investing millions and in some cases billions into drone technology, AI systems, and advanced defense infrastructure, right? And today, what we're talking about, this is not fear talk, okay? We are going to talk about how the capital is flowing, capital meaning money, how it's flowing, right? And what we as kingdom citizens need to be paying attention to, okay? So, um, a couple of scriptures that I want to give you all really quickly before we dive in is Second Timothy chapter 2 verse 23 to 24, and also Titus 3 chapter 9 verse Titus chapter 3 verses 9 to 11. Now, we're not going to go there because this is not a Bible study, but I want you to write those down and I want you to look them up. Maybe even right now or maybe after this show, but in either case, please make sure that you go and see them. These scriptures instruct us to avoid foolish controversies. Yes, yes, it does. It instructs us to avoid foolish controversies and these controversies that produce division and distraction. Okay, especially when there are larger shifts that are happening that require wisdom and preparation. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. I know if you're looking at the title, like it says drones, distractions, and the debt trap. And so you might be wondering what all this has to do with the scriptures just gave you and what I said to you. But this is what I'm saying in a nutshell. We are paying attention to the wrong things. Too many of us are paying attention to the wrong things. We're not watching the right things. So let's talk about what we as kingdom citizens, when it comes to our money, what we should be watching in this time frame. Okay, that's what we're going to be talking about. So get your pens, your paper, pencils, all that good stuff so you can take some notes and you can go do some of your own research when this is done. How about that? All righty. Sorry, my notes seem to be jumping back and forth, and I don't understand that. All right, I don't understand. All right, so let's talk about these um, drones. All right, let's talk about it. What's going on? Well, before we do that, we're going to do our stewardship check-in. Okay, let's do that. And there is a question that as we go through this entire episode that I want us to make sure that we're thinking about. And that question is, if major economic shifts were happening behind the scenes, would you even notice? That is the question that I want you to be thinking about as we talk today and to keep at the forefront of your mind throughout the rest of this week. Because the truth of the matter is that stewardship requires awareness. It requires awareness. We cannot be operating blindly, foolishly, um, ignorantly when it comes to stewarding this resource called money, right? And any resource that God gives us. All right. So the government is investing in drones. Yes, they are investing in drones. Now you might be saying, well, big deal, right? What does that matter? Let me tell you what it signals, okay? What it is signaling, because like I said, they are investing not just a few hundreds of thousands of dollars, they are investing millions and billions into drones. And what this signals is the fact that the global military strategy is shifting, okay? Global military strategy is shifting. That means that they are moving towards unmanned aerial systems, UAS for short. They are moving towards AI guided defense systems. They are moving to surveillance drones. They are moving to autonomous logistics. They are moving to cyber integrated warfare. Now, why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? Why they investing so much in drones for these purposes? Well, for a few reasons. One is so that they can reduce troop risk, okay? Reduce the amount of people who are out there on the front lines um, fighting and losing their lives, okay? So that's one of the reasons. Another is to increase surveillance capacity because we know these drones have the ability to get in places where sometimes we as humans cannot, okay? AI can get to places where sometimes we as humans cannot. Um, over the long run, of course, money has to do with it, right? So they are looking at lower long term operational costs. All right. So that's not a surprise, is it? Because that's just the way of capitalism, right? If they can reduce their bottom line, then they're going to take the steps necessary to reduce the bottom line. And then they're also looking to expand tactical flexibility. So, mass investment in drone infrastructure typically it signals long term strategic preparation. Okay. Now, this is not for short term panic because I don't want anybody walking away from here like, oh my gosh, they're getting all these drones. They're about to do strikes tomorrow or next week or whatever, right? I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that they are making preparation for future conflict models. Preparation isn't fear, preparation is strategy. And it is the same thing that kingdom citizens should be doing. We should, of all people, understand preparation, right? And so, what does this mean for those of us who are investors? And if you're not an investor, okay, you need to go back and watch, I think it was the last episode, or maybe even the last two episodes, okay? Yes, the last two episodes. Go back and watch those, okay? Because we have a mandate to produce, to multiply, and to dominate. And so investing is one way in which we can help our money multiply. All right. Now, here's the thing. If drone investment increases, then there are definitely going to be some ripple effects, okay? And not just def- defense contractors. We need to be thinking bigger than this as kingdom investors. Okay. We need to be thinking bigger. We need to be thinking about what sectors are going to be directly impacted, right? Like aerospace manufacturers, like defense technology firms, like drone component suppliers, like AI system developers, like sensor and semiconductor companies, right? And companies who are going to be responsible for repairing and maintaining drones, if you will, right? We need to be thinking about all of these things. Now, not only do we need to think about the direct sectors, but we also need to think about the indirect sectors and the impact that it's going to have on them. So, what are some indirect um, sectors that this is going to affect? Well, maintenance and logistics firms, cybersecurity, advanced battery manufacturers, rare earth mineral producers. And we talked a little bit about that when we talked about gold and silver and how silver is being highly used right now for AI. So make sure you go and catch the last episode as well to hear more about that. And robotics companies. Okay. So all of these industries or sectors are going to be impacted as well because this is where the shift is going. Okay. So if budgets shift, that means capital is flowing, okay, to these places where it's shifting, and where government money flows, contracts are going to follow, right? And where the contracts follow, earnings follow. I hope you guys are getting what I'm saying. And where earnings are growing, stock prices are going to respond. All right. So this is not speculation advice. This is pattern recognition. This is the way it has always been. And for those who have been successful in investing, they know and understand that. They are looking for where the money is flowing. And as investors, we don't panic, right? Normal people will see that and be like, oh my God, we're going to go into war tomorrow. Da, da, da. And I'm not saying like we don't need to be prepared on that end either. But I'm saying, no, we prepare. We don't panic. We don't, lose our minds, right? We don't start having these meaningless arguments and conversations that keep happening over other stuff. Like someone will actually find a way to make this, if people pay attention to what's going on with them investing in drones. I promise you, somebody is going to find a way to make this about race. Somebody's going to find a way to make it about gender wars. Somebody's going to find a way to make it right versus left. Those are not the conversations that we need to be in. Those are not the conversations that we need to be in. Okay. As investors, we don't panic. We observe capital movement. Okay. Somebody put that in the chat. Whether you're watching live or whether you're watching the replay, we observe capital movement. All right. So in this season, we need to be mindful that we're not being distracted from making sure that we're prepared, making sure that we have strategy in place for our finances. So while people are arguing online about identity politics, cultural skirmishes, social outrage, and I'm not saying that these things don't have a place, but what I'm saying is we're so involved in these conversations that we are not watching these other headlines and making preparations in our own households. Okay. So while people are arguing about those things, the real capital shifts are happening in defense technology, they're happening in energy independence, they're happening in AI infrastructure, they're happening in semiconductor production. These are the places in where shifts are happening, and people are not paying attention. Just the average Joe, right? Because we get caught up in whatever the news is reporting to us. People don't want to admit it, but I'm going to keep telling y'all every chance I get that if you are involved so deeply in those conversations, and when I say so deeply, I mean, you know, it don't have to be that doggone deep, okay? But when you are involved in those conversations, you need to be careful because you may be so distracted that you are not bearing fruit. It is very easy to get on social media and and be what I call keyboard gangsters, putting your opinions out there, and it's easy to do that, to sit behind a laptop and do all these things. Many of you are out here, you making assumptions about whether what other people believe. You know, I happened to put on a comment on a video on YouTube about praying, for the president, and how I can pray for the president yet still be kind of, suspicious, right? So, but as kingdom citizens, it is our duty to pray. So someone then commented back and they were like, that's what you Democrats, da 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 da, da," like they were going in, right? So I just responded and I said, respectfully, you don't even know me. And if you knew me, you would understand that I'm not for either party and haven't been that way for years. But you made an assumption because I said that I'm a little suspicious. We are going back with people, some of us, and we don't even know how they really and truly feel. We are not having conversations outside of social media anymore. We are not just sitting around having conversations with people and getting to know them. But I don't want to go all the way down that road. I can get on a soapbox there. I don't want to do that here. But I want to say for those of us who want to be who want to be great stewards, good stewards, these are the conversations that we can't be involving ourselves in. A fruitless controversy is one of the most effective distractions in history. I'm going to say that again. A fruitless controversy is one of the most effective distractions in history. When the masses of people are arguing, there are policy shifts that are being made quietly in the background. And I remember, I think I've told you all this before, like here on this show at some point, and when I talk with friends, like, yeah, I see the headlines, but I'm curious about the headlines that aren't on the front page. I'm curious about the headlines that are, in the back and that are showing up in the very small font. Those are the headlines that I'm curious about. Because when the masses of people are arguing, policy shifts are quietly happening. When the masses of people are being divided, the money, okay, in the background is being reallocated quietly to things that they don't want you paying attention to. When the masses are scrolling, okay, and looking for what fruitless conversation they can get into, in the background, there's infrastructure that is being built very quietly. And that's where you're going to find me. You're not going to find me having a bunch to say about all these other things that people are talking about. And it's not that I don't have my opinions, thoughts, or feelings about them. I do, but not to the point where I'm going to get distracted by those conversations at all, because at the end of the day, they're fruitless. Great. You made a post stating your opinion, and, and it could have been a very well articulated one. I'm not even talking, very well articulated. Okay. But what did it do? At the end of the day, what fruit is being, what do we see? Right? Jay says it gets overwhelming and I have to turn away. Absolutely. Me too. Me too. Right? Like I'll see, a headline. I'm like, oh Lord, here we go. Go to the comments, look at a couple of them, and I'm like, just what I expect, right? People just going at it, going at it, going at it. Don't even know each other from Adam. And social media has deceived you to think that you know people that you don't know, right? And I'm talking about the people you arguing with. I'm not talking about people in political power. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about us as kingdom citizens going back and forth with one another. And it is beyond me. I said I was not going to get on a soapbox. I need to get back on what I wanted to talk about, but I'm going to say this and I'm going to let it go. It is beyond me. It is beyond me when either political side is saying this is the party that keeps all of the Bible and that one isn't. Because the truth is, neither side does. And then someone said, well, no, well, that one more so makes, is more so out of line than this one. No, the truth of the matter is that they both are. And when you all can stop being duped by all of that and being a sucker for the news, the fake news, and all, because when you all understand that people, oh, this it angers me. And I'm not gonna get on the soapbox. When y'all understand that all this news, a lot of this news is curated very intentionally to promote division, you might be onto something. All right. You might be onto something. And awareness is not just enough, because there's some of you who say, oh, yeah, I know that, but you still get involved in the back and forth. So, anyway, I'm going to leave that alone because I'm not here to, to do that. All right. So, we talked about what's going on, with the drones and the massive investment in the drones. Okay, so be paying attention as you are investing. Be paying attention to those sectors. Okay, that you're going to be able to, if you invest in those sectors, you're going to be able to realize some gains. And of course, there will always, there'll be losses. I don't want to sit here and tell you there it's not risky. I would be lying. Okay. But those of us who are wanting to be good stewards of our money, those are the headlines that we are following. Okay. All right. Now, I want to talk about this jobless boom. Okay. We are in a very strange season, very strange. And I've been saying this with a couple of friends of mine. We are in a very strange season. Um, some sectors are reporting that there are strong corporate earnings and record automation investment. And, you've got the AI expansion and you've got defense spending increases. And then at the same time, we're hearing layoffs, right? In technology, but not only in technology, layoffs are occurring in other um, sectors as well. We're hearing about a lot of white collar displacement, right? So for a while there, Amazon was laying off a lot of office people. Um, it may begin to touch, the folks on the front line. And there are other companies that were doing the same thing, and they may be expanding into frontline. But for right now, that's what we've been seeing with some huge companies, right? Hiring freezes have been occurring in certain industries, right? Even in the religious sector, right? I am aware of a denomination I was a part of, like they currently, this region has a hiring freeze, right? So these things are going on, right? Also, gig based employment is replacing salaried roles. Why? Because people are having a hard time finding work. I don't know about you all and what your experience has been, but I have friends who are out there looking for work. I have a friend who said it took them almost an entire year, 9 months to find work, and not for them not looking, they were actively looking. I have friends who say that, it took 3 months, 6 months, that it's been taking a long time. It has been hard. They have been putting in many applications, right? Um, it's no longer enough just to put in. uh, You could, when I was coming up back in the day, you could probably put in about 5 applications, 10 applications, and be all right. Somebody was calling you, but not today. You could put in 25 applications, 50 applications, and not hear anything, right? And so that has allowed for the gig based employment, the 1099 types of things and contracts and everything to replace salaried roles because people are having a hard time finding salaried work. And this is what I am saying, and I didn't make this phrase up, but this is what creates this, what I call a jobless boom, right? Economic output grows, corporate profits grow. Isn't that strange? But they're letting go of people. But the reason they're letting go of people is because so that they can grow their bottom line. And the first place that a corporation is going to look, if they need to make cuts and they need to increase the bottom line, increase their profits, the first place they're going to is salaries. And a lot of times it's the heavier salaries, which you find are your white collar workers, right? So it's very strange. You got the corporations saying they're doing good. Well, yeah, I bet you are, right? But individuals who are having a hard time finding stability in employment because it just doesn't exist anymore. I think my generation was the last. We are like right at that bridge where when we first got into the job market, you know, we were experiencing kind of a little bit of that stability, right? And then a few years in, then we started to hear of friends and ourselves going through um, outsourcing and downsizing and upsizing and all the things, right? And now we're in this space where it's like out of control, right? So it wasn't our parents' economy where they could get a job and be there for 50 years, right? There are some people in my generation who have been on a job for 30 plus years. There are some, but there are many who have not had that experience. And there are many of us in my generation, even who are now part of this gig economy, right? So it's very, very interesting. Very interesting. So technology is increasing the productivity, fewer humans are required. That means the income security is shifting in a way. So we have to shift too. And we have to figure out, okay, if they don't need me for this particular job, then I probably need to learn the thing that is training the other things to take over, right? I probably need to find a way into that sector some kind of way and make some money, whether that's through investing or whether that's learning a new skill, um, particularly about AI and using it to make money, right? So anyway, um, we don't have that old model anymore of where you can be on a job for 30 years, get a pension, retire, live happily ever after. It just does not exist. There is a new model, and that model is multiple streams of income, skill stacking, strategic investing, and adaptability. That is the story of our lives, right? Now, the world has a funny and interesting way of shifting from one end of the pendulum to the other and then back. And I don't know if I'll be alive long enough to see it um, swing back to 30 years on the job and pensions and retires, but you best believe things go in cycles, right? And it'll shift back. I don't think we'll be here to see it, but whatever, right? But this is where we are right now. So if you're not preparing for flexibility, you're preparing for vulnerability. So what am I saying? We got to get used to that this is what it is. This is what it is. You can't get used to having that, every other week or however it was you were getting paid check that's coming in for 30 years. Not going to happen. Get used to these gig economy jobs where, you know, you're making some good pay today, maybe tomorrow not so much, then business picks up after the next day. It just fluctuates. It fluctuates, right? And you can have predictability in that as well. But we're not here to talk about that. Find a business coach, okay, who specializes in that, and they'll help you with that. So anyway, the last thing that I want to talk about today, because I've been here long enough, we're coming up on 30 minutes. The last thing I want to talk about is the interest rate and debt trap. Okay. Last time I talked about how the feds decided they were not going to cut the interest rate again. Okay. Now, out of everything that I've talked about today, now layer in high interest rates or elevated, being stayed at high interest rates. When rates stay elevated, what can we expect? Well, we can expect that consumer debt is going to cost more. What is consumer debt? That's your credit cards, right? Those interest rates on your credit cards are not coming down. That's when you buy a home, interest rates not coming down. When you buy a car, interest rates not coming down, right? So your debt is going to cost more. We can also expect that government debt servicing costs are going to explode. Okay. We can also expect that corporate is going to tighten what you can borrow. And so I'm talking about banks and things of that nature. They're going to be very tight on, they're going to be tight on, who can borrow, right? And then refinancing is going to become very expensive. So this is not the season to refinance. This is not the season to borrow if you can help it at all. Um, it's not the season for that. But if you absolutely have to do it, weigh everything, know what you're getting into. All right. And as far as the interest rate and debt trap, here's the trap. Okay. Inflation obviously increases prices, right? And it increases prices on our day-to-day stuff. Consumers have to rely on their credit to maintain lifestyle. This is nothing new, but it is not going away anytime soon. Interest rates are going to stay high. I already mentioned that. And debt is going to compound faster because of high interest rates. And so if you cannot keep up with paying off your debt, and that means not just making minimum payments, that means making your minimum payment plus. And if you can't keep up with that, you are not going to be able to, um, you're not going to be able to win over compounding interest. You're just not. It's going to compound and not in your favor. And this is another reason that investing is important, because when you invest, you can have interest compound in your favor and combat the other parts where it's not in your favor. I hope that makes sense, right? So, what's happening is with this interest rate staying where it is and debt going to be increasing, that there is this kind of systemic squeeze, if you will. Okay. And for individuals, credit card interest are going to eat away at your cash flow. You're going to feel like you're making less money, even though you're not, right? Home equity loans are going to cost more. Refinancing is going to become less attractive. And what's going to happen as far as the government is concerned? Well, interest payments are going to become one of the largest budget items so that they can take care of what they got to take care of, pay down their debt. How are they going to do that? Well, we'll charge the people more interest in various types of ways, right? So these debt traps, um, often they don't feel very dramatic at first. They feel tight, then tighter, and then very restrictive. And kingdom wisdom says the borrower is servant to the lender, right? Proverbs 22:7. And so this is not condemnation, but this is a warning. It is so important, people, hear me. It is so important that you focus on your solvency, making sure that you have an emergency fund. No ifs, ands, or buts. I don't want to hear any excuses. People talk about, well, this, that. No, make a decision and do it, because stuff is always going to happen. You just need to make a decision like that money is for emergency. That's what it's for. And so this over here, whatever is happening, it's not an emergency. I'm going to figure another way out and leave that alone, because there's going to come a time where you're going to need it even worse than what you are where we're at now. And it's just, again, this is not to scare anybody. It's not condemnation. It's not any of that. It's just we have to be smarter. We cannot keep putting up the excuses, because where have those excuses gotten you? You have been complaining for years and years and years how things are tight. You've been complaining about, oh my gosh, the car engine just blew, or the alternator is out, and you have no emergency fund to go to for it. So now you're taking money from other bills that need to be paid, and you're putting yourself in a hole. So the truth is, while you're already in the hole, start making the right decisions, because you're in the hole already. And how you get out the hole if you keep doing the same thing? If you keep doing the same thing, that means you're just digging a deeper hole, right? So what do we do, people? What do we do? Reduce personal debt aggressively. That's what I've been talking about. Increase your income streams intentionally. Okay? Your one little 9 to 5 job is not going to do it. And sometimes for a lot of you, some of you got 2 and 3 jobs and you're working yourself in a tizzy. We got to be smarter, right? And find ways that we can make money where we don't have to. If you already have a 9 to 5, find a way to make money where you don't have to show up and put in hours like that somewhere else. You're right. Find something that you can do at home online. Find something where you can make, you know what, if I do this, I can make about 60 bucks in 20 minutes. Stuff is out there. Okay. Pay attention to where capital is flowing. That's how we started this episode. Pay attention to where the money is flowing. Get yourselves out of these conversations that are fruitless. Pay attention to where the money's going. Avoid all the emotional distraction and strengthen your liquidity. In other words, your emergency fund. Okay. And having cushions. Okay. Preparation is not fear. People, this is obedience. This is obedience. This is stewardship. All right. So when you see things like, because what's the bigger picture? When you see things like massive drone investment, accelerated AI development, automation growth, rising debt servicing costs, cultural distraction cycles, when you see all of this stuff, something should be going off in your mind like, oh boy, we are witnessing some kind of systemic transition. Something is going on. And the transition will reward those who are prepared. That's the bottom line. All right. So if you're tired of reacting to headlines, if you want to move from distracted to disciplined, and if you want kingdom strategy instead of cultural noise, then I am going to invite you to join me for Financial Rebellion. We are getting started March the 3rd. We are a few weeks away. The time is here. I've been talking about it since October, telling y'all to get in, or maybe November, telling y'all to get in where you fit in, okay, so that we can learn how to prepare together, right? So the link is in the show notes in the description. I have kept it at that $249 price point. Early on, when I first started talking about it, I said that this was the super early bird pricing because it actually costs like close to $3,500. But I have kept it at the $249 because of the season we're in, and I don't want people to have any excuses. And even with that 249, payment plans are still available. Okay, no excuse. If you cannot, because I get it, some people things are super tight and you can't even do that. If you cannot be part of Financial Rebellion, then the least you can do is grab my book, Stop Begging God for Money. It is a how-to guide. It is going to take you step by step how to set up your daily finances so that you can work on your solvency, so that you can prepare, right? Even learn how to invest and all of those things. That's what I wrote it for you. Okay. And check out some other things again in the show notes. Other ways like you can, schedule a 30-minute complimentary consult. Um, yeah. Okay. So I hope that this has been helpful for you. I hope I didn't rant too much this episode. I try not to do that. Just, teach straight and direct. But I hope that this has been great. So I think next week we're going to talk about AI. We're going to talk about automation and the future of wealth transfer. I think that's what I want to talk about, unless the headlines say something else about money. Because here's the thing, if drones are increasing, then we know AI is expanding, the jobs are shifting. And so we need to talk about who's going to win in these next cycles. Okay. And Jay says to y'all get in the room. Okay. And she would know because she was in the room. So God bless you all. We'll see you next Thursday, hopefully at our regularly scheduled time at 12:30 Eastern. God bless you. Have a great day. Oh, and don't forget to produce, multiply, and dominate. God bless.